All right, so lesson 3.7, okay? Now you're dividing with decimals. So some word problems with division, okay? You travel 869.4 miles in 3 days. We want to know we want to know the average distance they drove each day. Right, so the plan here is the average distance per day is how many miles per day. So you need to divide the total by the number of days you traveled. Okay, so we would do 869.4 miles divided by 3 days. Okay, so division with decimals is pretty straightforward. Okay, it's very much like dividing whole numbers. So the first thing you do is you place the decimal in the quotient directly above the decimal in the dividend. Okay, and this is when it's a decimal divided by a whole number. And then you just divide. Okay, so if I have this, that I'm doing here, the 3 goes on the outside, 869.4. Okay, then what you do is you take the decimal, place it up here in the quotient, and now you divide. So 3 goes into 8 twice. Um, 3 goes into 26 8 times. 3 goes into 29 9 times. Bring down the 4. And then 3 goes into 24 8 times. And you get 289.8 miles per day. Okay, straightforward. We simply placed our decimal and then we divided. Okay, when it was a whole number. So 20.44 divided by 14. So 14 goes on the outside, 20.44 goes on the inside. Okay, your decimal comes straight up, and then we divide. So 14 goes into 20 once. 14 goes into 64 4 times. Then bring down the 4 again. 14 goes into 84 6 times. And there's nothing left over. So you would get 1.46. Okay? So a rule to know is that when the divisor and the dividend are multiplied by the same number, the quotient does not change. Okay? Which means you can move the decimal over in both of them, and it's the same thing as dividing by a power of 10 or multiplying by a power of 10. Okay? So when when you are dividing by a decimal, so you have a decimal divisor. Okay? Couple of steps. You're going to make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal. Okay. Then you're going to move the decimal in the dividend the same number of places. And then do what we did here, right? Place the decimal point in the quotient and divide. Okay, so it's the same steps. So 4.13 divided by 0.7. So the 0.7 goes on the outside and the 4.13 goes on the inside. Then we need to make this a whole number. So we're moving one place to the right, and then you're going to move one place to the right on the dividend. So 41.3. Okay, then that decimal place comes up and we just divide. So 7 goes into 41 5 times, and 7 goes into 63 9 times. So we get 5.9. Okay, so 3.612 divided by 8.6. So 8.6 needs to become a whole number, so it's going one place to the right. So one place to the right on 3.612. So we would get 86 into 36.12. Then that decimal place comes up. 86 goes into 36 0 times. Then 86 into 361 is 4 times. Then we subtract and bring down the 2. 86 goes into 172 twice, and it goes in evenly. So we get 0.42 as our division. Okay, so that's dividing decimals. And then we have 3.8. You are solving decimal equations with multiplication and division. Okay, so you've done solving equations using multiplication and division already, but you've done whole numbers. So the steps are going to be the same. Okay, so the goal of solving is to isolate your variable. This gets done using inverse operations. Okay, so when you have multiplication, you use the inverse of division, and when you have division, the inverse is multiplication. Okay, we use those inverse operations to solve. Okay, so we have 12 minus 3.8 in parentheses times z equals 78.72. Okay, so the very first thing is you have to simplify. So we have these parentheses, we can subtract. So we're going to take 3.8 away from 8, or from 12, and you would get 8.2 times z equals 78.72. Okay, the operation you have here is multiplication. You undo multiplication using division. Whatever you did to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay, so you divide. So this decimal gets moved over one place in both. So 82 into 787.2. That goes 9 times. And bring down the 2. And it goes 6 times evenly. So Z is 9.6. Okay, then W divided by 8.1 minus 5.7 equals 76.3. So you need to simplify first, so we can do this subtraction. So we get W divided by 8.1 minus 5.7 is 2.4. That equals 76.3. Then the operation we have here is division, so you undo that by multiplying both sides by 2.4. Okay, 2 decimals here, so multiply down, that is 12. And then 2 places. You get 183.12 for W. And that is multiplying decimals and dividing decimals.